Welcome back to SHOT. I'm joined with my good friend, the Attorney General of the great state of Iowa, Brenna Bird, who's, this is your first time at the SHOT Show.
It is. I've never been here before, and it's just amazing. It's overwhelming, honestly. All the great people here, good Americans, but just wow.
Yeah, it's never been bigger, the biggest SHOT Show ever, but we actually go back quite a ways when you were working on the Hill, and it's great to see you here. Now you have a new role, and we get to work together in your new capacity as the Attorney General of Iowa. So why don't you tell the audience what we've been working on and what you've been helping to lead on?
Yeah. Well, we've been working on all kinds of things because the Second Amendment's really under attack right now. And with the disaster we have in Washington with the Biden administration just doing whatever they want rather than what the law and Constitution requires, it comes to state AGs to go to court and to stop agencies like the ATF from running all over our rights and just making sure that the Second Amendment is upheld. It's so important. I've always been a Second Amendment supporter. In Iowa, we have good laws, but we can't let the federal government take away our rights. So there's a lot of different things that we have been working on as AGs, working together. Most recently that letter that we sent about the NATO rounds, standing up for that.
Why don't you explain to the audience in case they don't know what that's about and why it's important, and really, we thank you so much for your leadership on that letter.
Well, I have to say just one thing, as a big picture, it really concerns me. We have to make sure that we have ammunition for military readiness, right? That is so important. But also citizens need to have access, law-abiding citizens need to have access to ammunition too. And we're seeing problems on both fronts. But, the Biden administration is just trying to change the rules, basically, and go after this particular manufacturer, and it's wrong. It would put a lot of good people in Missouri out of work. It would hurt our military readiness, and it's just not right. They're looking at every way they can to make it hard for us to do what's right.
Yeah, the Lake City Arsenal is owned by the Department of Defense, run by the Army. It's actually run under a contract with a major ammunition manufacturer. And going back to 2001, the Department of Defense changed the contract to allow commercial utilization of the Lake City facility. And they did that because in the ramp up to the war, Lake City, half the machines were mothballed, out of service. They didn't have enough skilled workers to run the machines to provide the ammunition to the warfighter. And the government had to go buy ammunition overseas to provide ammunition to our warfighters. And so wisely, DOD said, we want this facility running full capacity all the time, so this never happens again. And so the companies that ran the contract then, and it's a different company now, were able to sell the ammunition made on those machines, which is perfectly legal and approved by ATF, to the commercial market. And the thing that people don't realize is those sales, part of those sales gets put right back into the facility to keep it up to date, improve the plant and equipment, and et cetera. So this proposal would cut off the ability for the commercial utilization, and that actually, as you said, undermines military readiness. And we are staring at a very dangerous world right now, unfortunately, due to the poor leadership coming out of the White House. And you couldn't think of a worse policy choice to try to implement now.
Oh, we really can't, and we have to have change in the White House, that's for sure. But until then, we need to be very mindful and realize we don't want to be in a position as a country of having to purchase our ammunition overseas. And certainly what the Biden administration is doing here is harmful. It doesn't make sense. They're hurting something that was working well, right?
Yeah. It's like the old saying, it's not broke, don't fix it. But you led the effort along with a couple of other attorneys general, and so there are 28 Republican attorneys general in the United States. And how many signed the letter?
Everybody did it. Yeah. So strong support.
Yeah, we're sending a really clear message to the administration that it would be a really bad thing to do. But again, it's part of this Biden administration's whole of government attack on the industry, the Second Amendment, every way that they can try to hurt the industry. The Lake City is one of them, and then we have this issue with pause on the export of firearms and ammunition products. Lawful transactions where countries want it, it's permitted to come into that country, and they're trying to shut that down. And as you mentioned, ATF just running amok, unfortunately.
Yeah, they are. I just talked to an Iowa business today that's being hurt by that export ban too. It's going to hurt people's jobs and opportunities, and it's just wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And you also look at what the ATF is doing, and it frustrates me to no end as a prosecutor that they are spending their energy criminalizing law-abiding firearms owners, the good people, when in fact they should be focused on the actual violent criminals out there that have guns, the gang members and others. That's where their energy should be focused, not on making it so hard to exercise our Second Amendment rights.
Well, when I talk to special agents and people at ATF, not in leadership positions, they share that view. They want to go get the bad guys, the trigger pullers, the ones that are committing violent crimes. They don't want to harass the industry. And what's happening, unfortunately, is that, dealers have historically been the number one source of information, ATF, that leads to trafficking investigations. And I'm a former prosecutor as well. We understand the importance of this. And now they're not doing that because they're afraid, well, this is going to lead to an inspection. And then if they finally made one mistake 5 years ago, they're going to put me out of business. And they're not calling as you would want, right? If the company realizes they did something wrong, call, ask for guidance. How do I correct this? I made a mistake. Self-reporting, an important concept in the law. Now, why would you do that? You're going to put yourself out of business.
It's a tragedy, and I think you're exactly right to make that distinction between the people, the policymakers in D.C., and then the agents out in the field who are trying to do the right thing. But we can't take much more of this, and I think we're going to see some big changes after this election, or I sure hope so.
Well, it's a very, very important election, as we spoke yesterday. Probably the most important election in our lifetimes, for not just for the Second Amendment or the firearms industry, but really the future of our country and the path we're headed on and the direction of becoming a socialist country.
Yeah, you're right. So many things are on the brink right now, and we have a great country full of great people and a constitution if only people will follow it.
Yeah. So people got to get registered. You got to show up on election day. You got to vote, and you got to support important candidates that run for office, like Brenna Bird, who was elected. Hey, well, tell us about your election as the Attorney General and who you defeated and how long that person was in office.
Yeah, and let me say this, Second Amendment supporters really helped me because my opponent was very bad on the Second Amendment. And so my opponent got elected in 1978 as Attorney General. So he got started, I guess, when I was 2. And so it took a lot of work to get him out of office. But a big part of that was Second Amendment supporters showing up and voting at the polls, not taking it for granted.
Yeah, absolutely important. And thank you again for participating in our first ever Attorneys General Forum, Boots and Badges. That was really terrific. What was your impression of the forum, and did you enjoy it?
Well, I thought the forum was great, a great conversation. I think we had some good ideas that were shared too about how we can protect people's Second Amendment rights, because when somebody from a state like mine, when we work together with other good states, we're also going to help everybody who might not have the type of state government that stands up for the Second Amendment. So it makes a big difference when we all work together, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation. It was, it was just great, at the end of a long, long day at the SHOT Show to be able to sit down, relax, have just a fun conversation. It was really good, and I hope you join us next year. I hope you come back to the SHOT Show every year, and we really appreciate your help and leadership, on Second Amendment issues, protecting the interests of the industry, not just in Iowa, where we're a growing presence, but throughout the country. So thank you very much for spending time with us.
Oh, thank you. Glad to do it.
Great. Well, that's all for now. We'll see you later.